Hi guys. Uh, I'm sure you've probably been here before. Basically, where I am right now, where you tried doing a basic automation. In the case of mine, what I want to do is the client doesn't have to pay for the popular CRMs or all those things, so they want to use n8n to actually automate their bulk of transactions. So they are using their website. Once you perform a transaction or you sign up on their website, basically, it comes through anything, goes through the automation process, and eventually creates an event. Basically, what happens first is it sends an email to the customer saying, "Congratulations, you've done this," with further instructions, and then it sends updates the Google Sheet that they use internally for their process. And then the last thing it does, based on the availability time that the customer has selected when they are actually onboarding, it creates a calendar invite which has a Google Meet inside of it and send it across to them. Now, I've been checking how to set up the webhook trigger such that I could actually use, I won't be using the query param, but I will be using the body. Most of the videos I saw online were using query param. So you had the value on this key and variable, or key and value basically. So it comes in the URL. But what if you're trying to send it as a JSON object from the body itself? So that's what I will be walking you through now based on the flow that I've worked on. I hope it helps somebody. So when you select the post request, I'm assuming that whoever is watching this video already have a basic understanding of n8n and probably already understands how the webhook work. But for the benefit of doubt, the webhook trigger is, or should I say node in this sense, the webhook node is a widget on n8n that allows you to create a sort of like an API that can be called from third-party website or externally. That means you can call the API from a third-party location, maybe from your website or from Postman like I would do, or from any other place aside from n8n. So what happens is n8n gives you a unique URL which you can actually customize. As you can see, this is my basic n8n domain, which can be changed as well, maybe to your personal website domain. But you could edit this particular last one, which is the part, so you could customize this to anything you want to customize. But for me, I just leave it because it doesn't have any impact. So you could use this directly. There's a test URL and a production URL. The test URL allows you to actually see what your data would look like before you actually do it, right? You could add authentication for security purpose. If you are using this, maybe I would, if there is a need, you can just drop in the comment section. I can explain the authentication process. But basically, it has the top 3 authentication, API authentication process that you could ever have. Either the basic auth or the header auth, which is usually the, I think the key and the, depending on your use case. And then you have the JWT. Either one of these 3 can be used, but for the purpose of this video, I will just keep it at none, right? And then you could choose if you want to reply back. Usually when you call an API, you get a response back 200 with maybe some information, right? But in this case, you could decide if immediately the user sends the request to this node, you want to reply back, or you want the node to finish the entire process, and if it is successful, you tell the user, "Hi, this is successful." And in this case, if you want to reply back immediately, that means the webhook trigger is just successful. That's what you like. When I say successful, it means that your request to n8n was actually successful. That means it goes into your data that you are sending. In this regard, all of these, n8n actually got it. immediately and you want to tell your own system that yes, successful, you can use it immediately. When last node finishes is you want to send it in, but you don't want your system to be notified until the entire process is done. For example, in this case, you have webhook trigger, you have edit field, you have send message, you have append rule, and then you have create event. So until all of this is done, it shouldn't reply back. I will show you what the reply looks like shortly. But yeah, it shouldn't reply back. And then I think there are other options as well, like using webhook node, respond with a defined node, like tell him when to actually respond, or respond and then this is a bit more complicated, right? This is like in the case of, say, if you've had an experience with Kafka before, this would probably make sense to you. But usually the highest you'd want to use when you are setting business automation is actually do it immediately or when the last node finishes. So for me, I'll just put immediately for the purpose of this. Then once this is set up, leave everything as is, right? Just for test. Make sure that the same applicable to the production URL, and then that's all you need to do on the webhook trigger. Then now, why do I need the edit field? This is the tricky part, right? I need to pass the data that is coming from my third-party platform. For example, if I click in this and say send, you see 200 response, which means because I said immediately, it's telling me that it has actually sent and the workflow has started, right? I can always also add other variables to this, but maybe in another video, if it is required. If any of you wants to get this data, you can always add this to it. I can always add more variables to it. Maybe when you return back with 200, you want to return back with maybe execution ID or something similar, right? So I can always do that. But for the purpose of this, it's telling you, that is what I said the other time, reply immediately. It's replying you immediately that the workflow has started. You could customize this to reply as workflow has ended in the case where you say don't send until the workflow is actually ended, right? Now, once you send this, what happens is the data comes in. If I come to execution now, I can show you the last execution, right? So what happened is this data came in, all this information that I sent came in into the system, and then when they came in into the system, it entered as business name, contact name, but it didn't just enter that, it has to be passed. And how will it be passed? It has to be passed as body dot business name. So which is why we needed this input feed to basically transform what we're getting from our API, which is this body.contact page, into something that is relatable for JavaScript, so that when you want to use it in, for example, email, you can actually use the JavaScript to send it directly. It actually makes your work easy. For example, if what you are sending is a nested data, that means, say, for example, in this, let's assume you have another variable here called, say, employee details, for example, and then this employee detail is actually has more data inside it, say name, the employee's name is maybe Father Lord Benin, right? And then you have age, then you say maybe 38, for example. Now this is a nested data. It would most likely make it easy for you, it would be easier for you if when this comes into NHA, it won't come exactly the way others are coming, where you are having business.body.business. It will now be body.employee details.name. So to save yourself the stress of going through all those excesses, really, or if the data change, what you can do is come to this edit field, add the edit field node and then do your data mapping. Once you do your data mapping, it will always map the data correctly to what you want to use it, and then you would be able to use that data in the next widget. Now understand that n8n does not necessarily keep the variables the way it should be. For example, it uses the variable that is being used in the previous node. So to use this same variable in the next node, you have to configure it the way this node handles it. For example, after I got to this Google Sheet, I had to use a different one. Can you see that the JSON is now checking it directly from edit field? So instead of using the variable from send message, I have to specify. If I decide to use it from webhook, I could actually take it directly from here and update. But the reason why I'm using it from this edit field is just in case there are some data changes, or tomorrow I decide to add another widget before the edit change, maybe to transform the data. Maybe I had something to convert the data. For example, let's assume I have a situation where when the webhook comes in, it doesn't send the country code, and I want to automatically append respective country code. I will probably add another node here that does that conversion before it goes to the edit field, right? So because of that, edit field is like my source of truth. So when using it in the Google Sheet, I would necessarily not come here to use the same way I used it. I have to specify that I'm getting that data from edit field. So basically, this gives you context to how you could use data generally. So either you are getting it from the body, or you are getting it from the URL, or you are getting it from the param. All should work. Okay,